There's a lot to historic Berryville, founded in 1850. An ongoing restoration project centered around murals has brought the town's history and art back into the forefront, including Highway 62, which cuts through the center of town.
This used to be the bus stop. It was Berryville Drug Company, and the bus would stop here, and people, rode the bus quite often back in the 40s and 50s. And this particular mural, we just tried to pick a date, mid-50s. I think we put it at 1954. So we just tried to find pictures and reference from that era. And as far as the people riding the bus, all of these are local folks. What we did, we basically raffled off the seats on the bus, which put a lot of interest. People who had ridden the bus took great interest. And we, of course, had more people in the raffle than we had seats on the bus, so what we did, we just put them all in a hat and drew names. So these are the lucky ones that got to ride the bus, but they're all local folks.
As long as I have a chance to speak here, I want to thank the people. This is a project that the people put together. We're instruments of the people, and Mary Nell started the project, and it brings back some of the murals were here, some are created, but it brings back that old time feeling of the 40s or 50s or even earlier times, and gives people a chance to get off the freeway, the crazy speed, everything's going so fast, to slow down, come to town, shop like in the old days, walk around the square, get to know the merchants. People do not realize the value of the small town. As this world grows and gets busier and busier, this is the heart, actually the heart of America. This will make America great, these small towns.
Mural artists Abbott and Rust have also done what are referred to as ghost signs or ghost lettering, indicating what business used to be there.
Well, this is something that we started. We felt like this was doable. This wasn't a giant project. We can do it little by little with the intent of adding interest and color to our town and introducing art. For the most part, we've kept it. We like the idea of the nostalgic murals, the old signs, because they kind of fit in with the town. Kind of keeping a little of the past as we go into the present, and people really like it. It has added a lot of color, and once we complete one, we sit back and rest, and then we go about and gather ideas for another and see if we can raise money. So it's been great.
Mary Nell Billings has even been included in one of the murals watering flowers on the town square.
I think Berryville has so much to offer that people don't know. It's a fun place to stop, fun place to walk around a square, because you don't have a lot of the old-time town squares left. And that is something that really fascinates a lot of people, and we're pretty proud of it. And so this just adds to it.
You know, we're like all small towns. Our square kind of deteriorated over the years, and it changed from, 50 years ago, it was an outdoor mall. You came to town, parked your truck on the square, you got your hardware, your groceries, your clothes, and everything that. And then as the traditional businesses moved off the square into other areas, the square kind of went down. But in the last few years, we've had a lot of interest from people, and it's primarily people that grew up here, that they love the square and they want to see it restored and become vibrant and a place for people to go and take their families. And so they started these murals, which was the first step, and that really got a lot of interest. And then the city, they've committed to, I don't know, we're putting in new sidewalks. We just got started on that with a brick liner. And we want to try to replace all the sidewalks, and we're doing some work on the square to improve the park area to make it more user-friendly. But you know, we're excited about that. We don't have, we have pretty much about 90% occupancy on the square now for buildings, and we're getting some unique businesses up there, gift shops, restaurants, and things like that. You know, what we want is a place where you want to bring your family and spend some time, and we got the museums of the history, and there's just a lot to see up there if you just take your time to walk around.
Now, Highway 62 is a different story. It cut through the town square, but now I guess it turned into a blessing, being the only highway that connects Canada and Mexico, and people travel along that highway.
Right. You know, we didn't have a bypass. I actually, in the summer of 1969, I was a flagman as they were tearing up our square, building the road through it. And so, you know, now the main thing is just, you know, trying to get people to slow down. But everybody that comes through Highway 62, they see our town. They don't go around the bypass, and you know, we're trying to make it attractive enough that people will see it and say, hey, let's circle around and see what all's going on here. This looks pretty interesting.
And pretty interesting are Berryville's museums. First, in the old 1880 courthouse is the Carroll County Heritage Center, where you can experience a reproduction of a pioneer schoolroom to a unique display of the history of barbed wire, and quite the history it is, being called the wire that fenced in the West. And speaking of the West, at Saunders Museum, you'll find one of the most extensive gun collections in the world, 900 plus firearms, guns once used by the famous and infamous, such as Jesse James, Billy the Kid, Pancho Villa, Belle Starr, and last but not least, Annie Oakley. Oh, and my favorite, a bear trap that was made by none other than Daniel Boone himself. So the next time you happen to be zooming through Berryville along Highway 62, don't. Instead, stop for a while and take a look around. You'll find it pretty interesting. Smack dab in the middle of Springdale is the Shiloh Museum of Ozark History. Outside buildings, along with the main building, portray the harsh lifestyle of the settlers who came here and their contribution, which led to the development of a rich cultural heritage.
The Shiloh Museum is named Shiloh because the land that we're on, the property here, was once the community. It was known as Shiloh, and Shiloh was the original name here before it became Springdale. So that's part of why the museum is Shiloh and why we're on this particular land. One of these buildings, what we call today the Circe House, was actually built here in 1871 and then expanded. So it's original to the site. The museum building, of course, is original to the site as well. But these other buildings, that we have 5 other historic buildings that were brought onto the site. And this was really the vision of the former director, Bob Beeson, who saw it as an opportunity for visitors to not only understand the grounds and native trees and plants, but the architecture of the Arkansas Ozarks. And so bringing these buildings here seemed like a natural.
Entering an 1850s log cabin, school children on a field trip are transported more than 160 years back in time.
It looks awesome. Yeah,
Inside, the lesson is on doing without the modern-day conveniences of home.
So whenever I can, I open up the shutters
to let in the natural sunlight. Okay? Now at night, I close the shutters.
The programs Shiloh Museum offers to school children provide a real-life experience versus a textbook account.
Rather than reading about in a book what life was like, they really get to experience it. So they can be in the log cabin, they can see and feel and smell what it would have been like. Having the fire, they can feel the warmth, or if they're further from the fire, they don't feel the warmth, which is as much of a learning experience as anything. So we like to have that engaging of all the senses in our programs.
I think it's really cool. I like that it has a lot of Arkansas history, and I wasn't sure what to expect when I came in. We just came by the kids to check it out, and I like seeing the way they made things back in the day, and we have things so fast now. It's cool to see how they spun the cotton and built their cabins and all.
Shiloh Museum's volunteer educators are the core of the great success of the educational programs.
The experience I get from teaching here is just like indescribable. There's no feeling like going home after volunteering and knowing that you've contributed to your community, and knowing that you've, helped a bunch of kids and taught them things, a bunch of kids who had to spend, 8 hours in a classroom every day, and now they've been able to get out and listen to you and know your name. And it's given me a lot of just happiness in my life. There have been multiple children who've come up to me and given me hugs at the end of the day, multiple kids who have called me by my first name, even though I only tell them my name once. And so I look back on my public school experience and the field trips I took, and all of them stand out, and I remember everything. All the teachers stand out, and all the experiences. I can just remember it all. And that's what I want for these kids, is to come in here and remember everything.
It's been incredible. I really like having the children come in and ask me questions and ooh and ah over the clothes I get to wear and the presentation that I'm giving. And it's really amazing to me to think about just being in a classroom and not being able to go out to the museum or all that whenever you wanted. So it's a really incredible experience to think of a field trip where I'm the teacher, and it's very different from what I'm used to.
What do you think about this, how life was in the Ozarks in those days?
It's a lot different than it is today, for sure. You had a lot more work throughout the day just to survive. So it would have been a challenge, but it might have been kind of fun. I don't know.
You wouldn't have a cell phone now.
No, I don't have a cell phone anyway.
Oh, okay. You're good.
With a name like Shiloh Museum of Ozark History, it's only fitting that one would expect to see quite a collection of images of everyday folks who made the Ozarks what they are today. And so, how about 500,000 photographs of Ozark life? Question, where do you think we are right now? In the Ozarks? Ouachitas? Well, not exactly. We're at Millwood Lake, of all places, in the southwest corner of the state. Don't believe it? Well, let us show you. Millwood Lake may be known for its great fishing, but there's another reason for coming here. White Cliffs Natural Area, located at the upper end of the lake. The White and White Cliffs is apparently one of the highest grade of chalk in the country. This chalk woodland also supports unique plant life. And for these reasons, this 570-acre area is protected under the Arkansas Natural Heritage Commission.
This area was purchased back in 1989. One of the main reasons is this outcropping. It's 100 foot tall of the Anona Chalk Formation. So it's got plants and natural communities that are very unique in Arkansas. The plants that are found here are typically found in the Edwards Plateau of southwest Texas, or you'll see plants that are limestone or dolomite loving like you would up in the Ozarks. So many of the plants here are found, this is the only place in Arkansas that they're found is on White Cliffs Natural Area, or they're only found in Little River County because of this chalk outcrop.
And it's really unusual when we were out there on the water. You look around and everything here, you know, is flat basically, except this is like just juts out, you know. It's just really amazing.
It is. The power of the Little River that carved out these bluffs years ago, which is now dammed up and part of the Lake Millwood project by the Army Corps of Engineers.
The best viewing advantage of the 100-foot tall White Cliffs is from the water. But if you aren't able to do that, there is a 1 3/4 mile trail from the parking area which will lead you to several scenic overlooks of the chalk bluff line. White Cliffs Natural Area is also of historical significance in that it was the site of a late 1800s to early 1900s settlement. But all that remains is the crumbling foundation of a cement plant. So enjoy the Ozarks and the Ouachitas all blended into one at White Cliffs Natural Area along Millwood Lake. Of all the interesting and unique attractions around historical downtown Rogers, want to know what my favorite is? The world-renowned Daisy Airgun Museum. You know, Red Ryder fame. Let's go check it out. Based on the popular comic book Western hero Red Ryder, the BB gun was first introduced in 1940. It's now the most popular BB gun in the world. A special display of Red Ryder BB guns at the museum shows the progression of this famous gun throughout the years. But Daisy didn't always make BB guns, nor was called Daisy. Now, Joe, a lot of people don't know this, but it all started out with windmills.
Hard to believe. Daisy Manufacturing used to be a windmill company, the Plymouth Iron Windmill Company, Plymouth, Michigan, which is in the Detroit area, and they made a vaneless windmill that was very popular but because it's the Plymouth Iron Windmill Company, it weighed a ton. They could only market within a small area.
And who was it that when they shot the gun and he said, "Boy, that's a Daisy"?
Oh, that'd be the general manager of the windmill plant, Lewis Cass Huff, was handed the first little gun that Mr. Hamilton made as an idea for the windmill company to also make an air gun. And Mr. Huff fired it in a wastebasket. He took it outside, he shot it through a shingle, and he liked it. And so today you might say, "That's really cool, Chuck." But he said, "Boy, it's a Daisy." And that meant it was a very good thing, and he liked it.
The rest is history.
The rest is history.
And you're never going to guess what famous pair of explorers used an air gun.
I never knew Lewis and Clark carried an air rifle.
Well, air guns are a lot older than Daisy. In the museum, we have examples of air guns from the 1600s, 1700s, 1800s, and yes, in 1803, Lewis and Clark took an air rifle with them in their journey across the United States.
But it shot a caliber lead ball.
It did. A lot of these antique rifles we have are 35, 40, 50 caliber shot. Very powerful.
Now, during World War II, Daisy stopped making BB guns and made other things for the war effort.
Well, in fact, every company that made a consumer product out of steel was told they couldn't get any more steel, but they could make in their factory parts for the war effort. And so Daisy made switches and bushings and bearings and spark plug rings, which we believe were used in the Liberator bombers built just miles from the Daisy plant.
Wow. I guess anybody that's either a fan or not a fan of BB guns or air pistols or whatever, this has been a part of American history for years and years and years.
130 years Daisy's been making BB guns, but as you see by walking through the history here, not only do you learn about the history of Daisy BB guns, but you learn about American history. This company's part of America's heritage since 1886.
And speaking of being a part of American history, to this day, there's a Daisy golf ball or two that are still on the moon. In 1971, Apollo 14 astronaut Alan Shepard hit one that he said went for miles and miles. In 1987, Daisy manufactured this sniper rifle for the Navy SEALs. Now around the corner over here is the Primo display, that classic 1983 movie, A Christmas Story, and people who never even heard of the Red Ryder gun quickly found out what it was.
Well, the gun came out in 1940, and that's about when the movie is set, but the movie was made in 1983. And so Daisy was challenged to make a few Red Ryders with a compass and sundial, which really wasn't how the gun was made, and make those for the movie. And then, of course, the movie just became kind of a cult classic, and they show it every year on Christmas Eve for 24 hours.
Tell us about this special edition Red Ryder here.
Well, in the Daisy Museum gift shop, we have a lot of limited edition collectibles, but one that's really popular this time of year is the 30th anniversary edition of the gun that was used in that classic holiday movie.
Thank you.
Don't do it. You'll shoot your eye out, kid.
So the next time you're in Rogers, browse through the Daisy Airgun Museum or some of the other attractions. And to view this episode again, or any one of our others, visit our website at aetn.org/exploringarkansas. And don't forget to like us on our Facebook fan page. And we'll see you again the next time for another exciting adventure on Exploring Arkansas.